Hi, I'm back. Have you missed me? Oh my god! We are back for another day of Vlogmas. I apologize for the little hiatus. But today's video is going to be my domestic violence experience and explaining to you guys everything that I've been going through for the past 3 to 4 months. Honestly, it's been way longer than that. But yeah, I want to first start off by saying I am a domestic violence survivor. I'm really, really nervous to talk about this because after I posted my last Vlogmas, my abuser reached out to me. And when I say reached out, I have a protection order. I have a no contact, no menace, no harassment criminal protection order, which is completely different from a domestic violence protection order, but we will get into that a little later. So with that protection order, I'm supposed to not be contacted by my abuser, her friends, her family. I'm not supposed to be stalked on any social media accounts. there's supposed to be no form of contact. This person, Brittany Scott, because I will be saying her name, Brittany Scott has an ankle monitor on her, and she is tracked at all times to make sure she doesn't come in contact with me. But because she's tracked 24/7, she can't and she's not supposed to contact me. She still does relentlessly, either every day. It used to be every single day, and then it went to every week, and then the judge threatened to remand her, and so there was a 3-week gap, and then it started up back again around Thanksgiving, and it unfortunately has not stopped. And with that, nobody really acknowledges that that is another form of mental abuse. And so I know I'm smiling right now because I really try to remain positive through this entire situation, but I am still completely in the midst of this domestic violence situation. And so I can't really talk about it in the past tense. And so, yeah. Yeah, I guess I want to start off by saying, Brittany Scott, I know you are watching this, and I do not give a dang nabbit. Please do not try to contact me after watching this video and after hearing my truth. Please, hopefully now you can leave me alone. Yeah, and if you do contact me, I don't care. I really do not care. I know you are watching this, and to the other viewers watching this, hi, I love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting me. If you are a domestic abuse survivor, please know that you are not alone. If you know somebody who has been a domestic abuse survivor, please hug them a little extra after watching this video. Please love on them a little extra after watching this video. And please, even though you don't understand or you've never been in that type of predicament, which you are freaking lucky, don't take your luck for granted, because if I could rewind time and have never experienced this, I 1,000% would. So yeah. Also, I am using Brittany Scott's real name and her full government legal name, because why would I protect somebody's privacy when they have done everything in their power to hurt me? And so I'm using her full name because that's me reclaiming my power. But in no way am I sending hate or ill will towards this person, even though you would think that somebody who's gone through what I've gone through would be like, oh my God, I hate this person, or I wish the death and the worst on this person. But no, I'm not that type of person. I am trying to heal from this situation, and I'm just trying to find Jada again, which I found Jada. Let me not say trying to. I have found Jada even through the midst of this entire situation, and I'm at the point of my life where I love myself so much. I know my worth. I know that I did not deserve that, and I know that I deserve nothing but the best in this world. And so, knowing myself and knowing my worth, I know I would never send ill will to anybody. I would never wish anything, literally, even the microscopic things that I went through, I would never wish that on anybody, even my abuser. So I'm saying her full name. For my viewers, please, I know I don't have a lot, but no hate towards this person. If I'm not seeing any hate towards this person, I hope you guys don't. I know I can't control everything and everybody, but like, I have to be better, and we have to try to be better than what's done wrong to us. And so, with that being said, Brittany Scott, if you're watching this, to my viewers who are watching this, let's dive into this story time. I keep touching everything because I'm really nervous, and I already have anxiety, but like, talking about what I've been through to the public and like putting it out there is really scary. And so I'm gonna try to stop touching everything, but I'm also really nervous. And so let's start from the beginning. I met Brittany at a time in my life where I thought I was bored. As you guys know, we're in the midst of a pandemic, Panasonic. And so it was even worse a couple months ago in the midst of this panoramic where we all had to stay at home. There was nothing open, blah. And so me being a young adult, I was 22 at the time when this all started. Me being a young 22-year-old, I thought, oh, I'm bored. Let me go get some attention from other people. Let me go fill this void of being bored with another person, and yada. Looking back at it, my life was really good at this time that I was quote unquote bored. I lived with my friend and one of my close friends, and I'm going to say that because we're for lifers. I was living with my 4-lifer, and then my other 4-lifer was literally right next door. We lived in Isla Vista. It was an amazing time. It was like empty in IV. And so if you guys know anything about UCSB and IV, it's really rare for it to be that empty. And so because of that, and because I'm a young adult, I'm like, I took for granted everything that I had at that time. And I was just trying to always be on to the next and doing something and in the midst of something. And I was like, OMG, I'm not getting attention. And I don't know. I was bored. I loved myself, but I didn't love myself enough to be okay and be content with where I was in my life. And so because of that, I went on these dating apps, which, red flag number 1, ladies, gentlemen, theys, thems, please try to refrain from dating apps. I know it's hard. I know Tinder, Hinge, Tammy, and all these other things look really great, but you never know who you are going to meet on these apps. And when I say it's so much easier to be this person it's so much easier to make a facade when you're online and you're not in real life. And so this person, we met on Tinder, and this person seemed like they were perfect. They were into literally everything that I was into. They enjoyed everything that I enjoyed. I am a Black Studies pre-law major. They are or were a history pre-law major. I'm into Black culture, Black issues, any and everything Black. And so was this person. They were into the same music, same books, same everything. And so I was just so infatuated by somebody giving me attention, and B, somebody being into the same things that I'm into down to a T, or at least I thought they were into the same things that down to a T, but looking back at it, they literally just reiterated everything that I was saying to them at that time, which red flag number 2. And so I was just blinded and infatuated by this person, or who I thought this person was, or who I thought this person could be. And so we met on Tinder. We talked for about, I want to say about 2 to 3 weeks online. And then one day we decided to meet up, and I lived, like I said, in Isla Vista. They lived in Hawthorne, California. And so one day she made the drive down here early in the morning to come and let's go on our first date or hang out. And so, yeah, that first date, it was literally red flag number 3. It was too good to be true, and I ignored it. And I was just so infatuated by this person, by getting attention, by the abundance of gifts I received on the first date, that I ignored literally everything that was in front of me. When I say ignored everything that was in front of me, this person openly admitted to me that they had a stolen gun and a loaded gun. Red flag number 4. Like, I'm going to lose count at how many red flags are in this. But this person had a stolen loaded gun, and on our first date, they brought it to my house. Excuse me? What? I'm confused. So, yeah. So our first date, our first hangout, we just hung out around Isla Vista. I showed her Goleta. I showed her my school. We talked. It was perfect. I literally, after she left, I went back to my friends, and I'm not going to say their names for their privacy because I care about them, but I don't care about you, Brittany Scott. So, Brittany Scott, I went back to my friends, and I'm like, hey, guys, this is so perfect. Like, oh my God, like, I can't believe I just met somebody who's like the same as me. Like, oh my God, I'm going head first. And so I jumped in head first with this person without knowing what I was getting into, and literally ignoring everything and all of the signs. And so, yeah. And so after our first date, I believe we started dating right after that, or soonly right after that. And it completely changed when we started dating. Everything that I loved was used against me. Everything that I was passionate about was used against me. Everything that I had told this person in confidence was used against me to hurt me, and to mentally abuse me. The mental abuse literally started right away. It started with the gun, and feeling unsafe about the gun. But, at the time I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, I'm dating like a badass. Like, and I believe at that time, it was like that Moneybag Yo song with City Girls. And it had this line like, leave your gun on the dresser and let me undress you. And I thought I was the coolest person. Like, yeah, girl, like, you can put your gun up there. Like, I don't care. I was just so naive at the time. Like, and I can't knock myself. I was 22. I was bored. I was infatuated. And I just was enjoying the attention. But once we started dating, the mental abuse began. I am really big on mental health. And so what this person did was pit their whole mental health struggles onto me. And it became my burden, and it became my problem to make sure this person stayed happy and was happy. And when they were bad, it was my fault. Or when they were struggling with mental health, it was my fault. And everything was my fault. And I couldn't say my feelings because, like, I was scared that, like, I was going to ruin this I was going to hurt this person who was already struggling, and I was going to cause more detriment to this person's mental health. And so this person, Brittany Scott, knew how I felt about mental health. And so every time we would argue, which was really, really, really frequently, it would be putting a gun to her head and playing Russian roulette with a gun, or driving off a cliff, or threatening to drive off a cliff, or threatening to kill herself. It was a lot. It was a lot. And so it was like walking on eggshells within this relationship. But when we were good, it was good. And I can't deny that either. When we were good, it was like, OMG, great. But when it wasn't good, it was like, I'm going to kill myself, or I'm going to hurt somebody. I'm going to hurt this. I'm going to hurt that. Or it was like, oh my God, my dad's struggling. So like, it's now my problem that your dad's struggling. It was just a lot. And so the mental abuse was the worst, because that is what kept me stuck for so long. I was like, I can't leave this person, because like, I don't want this person to commit suicide. Mind you, I tried to leave a lot. And every time I tried to leave, it was, oh, I'm going to kill myself. Or, oh, she would literally FaceTime me, bawling her eyes out, and be putting a gun to her head and threatening to kill herself if I left. Or if I didn't even talk to her for hours, it would be a massive freak out, and I would be bad. I had friends before her. The friends that I hung out with, no, that was a problem. She threatened my friends to, she said, and I quote, I have a bullet with my friend's name, which I'm going to exclude, that she had a bullet with my friend's name on it and my name on it. And just things like that were really abusive and really toxic. And so I stayed. Mind you, this relationship only lasted for 2 months. I really want to preface that it literally lasted for 2 months, even less than 2 months. The mental abuse started from day one, week one, what the fuck ever, and then it continued. And so the mental abuse was really, really, really hard, because at the time of the mental abuse, I was struggling myself. I struggle with mental health. I struggle with being bipolar. I struggle with depression, anxiety, and ADHD. And so at the time when this person was going through her own mental health, it caused me to be depressed, and it caused me a lot of anxiety even being around this person. It caused my mental health to deteriorate immensely. There were days where I couldn't get out of bed. There were days where I didn't speak my truth. There were days where I blamed myself. There were days where I hated myself, because I'm like, oh my God, I'm ruining this person's life. Or, oh my God, like, if they're not happy, then what am I doing wrong? What? I just kept trying to, I'm a fixer. And so I kept trying to make it right and fix her and fix everything. And that got really taken advantage of. And I fell at the wayside. My mental health fell to the wayside. Yeah. And then it turned physical. Me and this person, in the span of 2 months, we took 2 road trips, both up to San Francisco, both one of the worst trips of my life. And they were literally the worst trips of my life, both of them. Did we take 2 trips? No, scratch that. I don't remember how many trips we took up to SF. But we took trips up to SF, and if I can find some pictures, I will insert them. But because the mental abuse was so bad, like I said, she would offer me gifts, and she would literally, shoes that I wanted, she would buy them, no questions asked. At the time, I used to smoke weed. Weed always provided. No, there were no ifs, ands, or but. Whenever she came, she would give me weed. The first time I met her, she bought me all these things, bongs, books, blah, 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 blah. And so, when it would get bad, she would be like, oh, let's go somewhere. Let's do this. And so, the mental abuse started, I want to say, the physical, my bad. Mental abuse started from jump in our relationship. It turned physical on one trip to San Francisco, the worst trip of my life. And it only escalated from there. So we went to San Francisco because Brittany had gotten a speeding ticket, and because of that, she had to go to court. And so that was our excuse to go up to San Francisco and spend a weekend out there. Yeah, we did go to San Francisco twice. Okay. We went to San Francisco twice. The first time we went, it was just mentally abusive. Mentally abusive to the point of, like, if she was sick, she got sick on that trip, and like that was on me. She was a diabetic, and literally that trip was just really mentally abusive, and it was really draining. Trip number 2, that's where it turned physical. From jump, when we were leaving my house, this person, I didn't want to go at first. Like, we were already fighting the day before, and I was already like, no, I don't want to go. I'm over it. I want to stay in the safety of my home. And so what did this abuser do? They're like screaming and yelling outside of my house, threatening me to get in the car, all the shenanigans. And so it was in front of my apartment complex, or it was in front of my apartment complex. It was in front of my neighbors. All this. She was honking her horn, yelling, screaming outside of my house. And so me being solution-based, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll just take one for the team. I'll just get in the car. And so I get in the car. We don't speak for not the entirety of the trip, but like we don't speak. And so I'm sitting in the back seat. Mind you, I did not even sit up in the front seat. I'm sitting in the back seat at this time. This person is driving on the way to San Fran. I could tell you guys all the details, but like that trip was fucking horrible. When on the way there, that was the first physical abuse. I was reaching for something. Like I said, I was in the back seat. I was reaching for something in the front seat that like she had put in the front seat on the floor on purpose. Mind you, it was very much on purpose. And so when I went to go reach for it, you have to get up and reach for it. She brake checked me, and my whole face slammed into the dashboard. And she said, "Oh my God, that was a joke. Like, ha 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 ha, that was a joke." And so me knowing damn well that wasn't a joke, and that was very purposeful and intentful, I got really, really upset, and I was really, really, really hurt. And so I just sat back in the back seat and in silence. Like, what else could I say? And so that trip was done in silence. That happened, and then on the way there, when I was like, I'm over it, like, you just crossed my boundary. I told you I don't do physical altercations. She pulled over to the side of the road, and put a gun to her head. She ran out to the middle of an empty field. Shit sounds like a movie, which is really weird. She drove to the middle of the field and was crying, praying to God, like, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself. I don't want to be on this earth anymore. Like, I'm losing the best person in my life, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to be on this earth anymore. And so me, like, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want you to kill yourself. Oh my God, like, no, girl, like, I still love you. Everything's all good. We're all great. I promise. Like, I'm fine. I put myself to the side again to make sure like this person didn't hurt themselves. And so after like a while of trying to talk this person off the ledge, she finally got back into the car. Do you guys know how triggering it is to, on a consistent basis, if you said the wrong thing, they instantaneously put a gun to their head and play Russian roulette with it? That happened really, 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 really regularly. And so the field happened. She did that. I asked her, can we please go home? I no longer want to be on this trip. It was the biggest mistake of my life getting into this car. And so very unfortunate that I didn't drive myself. This person kept making a U-turn to act like she would go back home, and then she would get a wild hair up her ass and make a U-turn and start driving back to San Francisco. And she was like, this is my trip, I paid for it, I want to go on to it, and if you don't want to go, you can get out, or you can find your way back home. I did not want to be left in the streets on some God knows where. And so because of that, I said, okay, I'll go with you to San Francisco, and I'll just figure out from there how to get home. At this point, I was already texting my brother, because that's my ace boon kun. And I was confiding in him, and I was confiding in my friends at the time of, like, what was going on. So, like, people knew that, like, if something happened to me, like, this is the reason, this is why. Like, I am saying this now, I would never do anything to myself. I love myself too much. I would never kill myself. I would never hurt myself. And I'm saying this because, like, I really feel like sometimes I have to preface that by saying that, because I'm scared that something one day will happen to me and it will be written off as a suicide, and I'm not a suicidal person at all. I really enjoy being on this earth, and I really enjoy helping people. And so at that point, I was really scared that I wasn't going to make it back home, or something was going to happen to me, which it inevitably did. And so I had to let my close friends and family in, which I'm not really good at. But at that time, I let my little brother in, and I let Handra in. I let my former friend Chris in. Handra and Chris knew from jump the abusive cycle that I was in. Also, sorry, y'all, for using your real names. Chris, I don't care that I use your real name, because we're not friends anymore, which that'll be another story probably at the end. Because if you have a friend that is going through domestic violence and you intentionally, like, disengage from them, or you go off because you think you're labeling as their fault, and, like, they are the ones that put themselves in this predicament. Mind you, that is verbatim what he said to me. He said, I have a family, and, like, blah, 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 blah. I have a family, and you did this to yourself, blah, 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 blah. I can't feel bad for you. So, yeah, me and Chris are no longer friends. But at the time of the physical abuse, we were. And so I had confided in him on what was going on in this trip, A couple hours later, we finally made it to... before we made it to San Francisco, this person had to go to court for a speeding ticket in Hayward, some shit like that, Wayward, I don't know, some town right before San Francisco or around San Francisco, which they had gotten a speeding ticket previously because they had went up to San Francisco or the Bay because one of their friends had died. And so the person had died like years ago, but they were celebrating the anniversary of their passing. So she had went up to San Francisco a couple weeks before our trip, and got a speeding ticket. So this trip was a getaway, but B, to go handle and fight her speeding ticket. And so we made it to the court for her speeding ticket throughout all of this, and I sat in the car the entire time, whatever, whoopty-whoopty-whooped. We finally make it to San Francisco, and we, again, don't talk. This person is a diabetic, and she was going through some diabetic thing. And so once again, that was my fault again, or I did something to trigger that. And so the mental abuse continued. And so me trying to, like, figure out what I did and how to help, I put the shit aside. And I was like, oh my God, like, if you're throwing up, if you need anything, I'm here. Like, I was helping this person with their throwing up. I was trying to find this person help. I went to go spend my own money on their diabetic medicine, blah, 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 blah. Which is literally a tactic that abusers use. Or, like, now that I know, like, it was very intentional, what she did. And so after we get to San Francisco, this person is going through her diabetic stuff and I don't know what she was going through at the time. We sat in the car. We didn't check into the hotel. We didn't do anything. We just sat in the car until this person was okay. Once she felt good enough or felt like it was okay, we finally went to go check into the hotel. And yeah, we didn't talk at all. It was very like, oh, you good? okay, because I'm like, when I'm bothered, or when, like, I'm very good at I can not talk to you. Like, you'll know I'm bothered. I stopped talking. And so we weren't talking, whatever, but I was still, like, in fix it mode. I was like, oh my God, you're mad at me. Like, I don't know how I can fix it, blah, 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 blah. And so that night we didn't really talk, what the fuck ever. I didn't eat because I didn't have a car. And so, like, this person literally, like, kept everything from me. Like, I couldn't leave the room. She didn't give me a room key. And so I felt trapped in the room. The next morning, she still woke up feeling sick. And so she allowed me to use her card to go to the grocery store, where I picked up some groceries and some stuff for her to eat to hopefully get her blood sugar down. I kept offering to take her to the hospital. Mind you, our hotel was literally right next door to a hospital. I said, let's just go. She's like, no, I know that, like, what's going on with me, and they're going to have to check me in, and I don't really want to stay in the hospital for hours, 2 days. I know it's bad, but, like, I don't really feel like being stuck in a hospital. Ma'am, if you're sick, go get some help. Like, I'm not a doctor.
It was just not happening. I don't know what happened, but every time I tried to record, it would cut off. And yeah, so we took a break. Now we're back, so we can jump right into it. That's why we changed locations, by the way. That's why we're in my room. So I was getting so frustrated with it keep cutting off on me in the middle of the story time, and, like, it's emotionally draining to talk about this. So I had to just take a break, take a breather, and now we are back. I believe I left off during the San Francisco trip. Yeah, so when we got there, we weren't speaking. It was very much my fault that she was sick. It was my fault that she was going through what she was going. It was because of the stress and because of the fight and because of this. I was literally blamed for her diabetes, and she was diabetic. She has been diabetic all her life. So the next day, that day, we fell asleep. I slept on the bed. She slept on the couch. We didn't talk. We didn't eat dinner. I didn't have a car to even go get my own dinner. I wasn't allowed to eat or to take her car. We didn't speak. Yada, yada, yada. That shit was a lot, or that stuff was a lot. My apologies. And so the next day, she woke up still sick, and it was still my fault. But at this point, I was allowed to use the car. And so that morning, I found a Vons nearby, and I went to pick up some groceries to help her blood sugar. I went to pick up her some supplies that she had forgotten during the trip. I picked up her some medicine, some Duramine, because she was throwing up. And I basically tried to mend the situation. I went back to the hotel. I gave her the snacks. I gave her everything I bought for her, and that still wasn't enough. We were still fighting, still not talking. It was still pretty much screw you. And so at this point, I'm like, we're in San Francisco. I've never really been and explored much, so let's go. Let me just go by myself to go explore. And so that's what I did. Like I said, I'm into black stuff, so I found this cute little black owned restaurant, and I had taken myself on a cute little date, and I had eaten by myself. I walked around, looked at art, went to bookstores, and this is all before I went to go eat. At this point, I had left the hotel room without telling her where I was going, and I got all dressed up, and, like, I was like, I'm just gonna do my own thing. I thought that would be cool. I thought that would be fine, whatever. So that day turned very love very fast. At the black owned restaurant, she found where I was, and because it was literally, like, right down the street from the hotel, like, I had to walk everywhere. Like I said, I didn't have my car, so everything was in walking distance. But I had really good food. I had a really good experience at first at the restaurant up until the point where she had found me. And at this point, she had found me and she sat down on the table and she was like asking why did I leave without telling her, like basically saying why did I leave without her, yada yada yada, saying how like she was just spewing everything at me she possibly could, and me not wanting to fight, not wanting anything, I just got up and walked away from the restaurant and I let her do her. But that, I believe, upset her even more. So as I was walking away down the street, she came after me. At this point, I was calling anybody and everybody to see if I could get home, because at this point it had escalated at the restaurant to the point where she was yelling at me. And then it just continued to escalate. And so when I had walked away, I was calling people, and at this point, this is where it gets physical. She takes my phone from me. She grabs my phone. She runs off with my phone. So at this point, now we're in the middle of the street at this restaurant. I'm trying to fight to get my phone back. Mind you, I'm not a physical person. I don't fight. I don't like to hit people. And so I'm literally in the middle of the street begging for my phone. Begging for my phone to no end. And so I start grabbing for my phone. Still, no, she's pushing me away, keeping like doing this. And so I'm over here trying to grab for my phone, reach for my phone. Mind you, there are people in the streets. People are yelling at us, hey, don't hit her. Hey, don't do this, because like it had gotten physical. And so she throws my phone. And so I go after my phone. And this is where she comes and grabs me. I said, screw it. I don't need my phone at this point. And so I'm bawling my eyes out. And I'm just like, I'm over it. I'm walking around asking people for help. I'm asking, can I borrow your phone? Because like, I don't have my phone. Because once she threw and I went to go for it, she got it first somehow, some way. And so I was at this point, I'm like, I'm done. It's cool, keep the phone. I don't have access to the room. Like I said, like I didn't have a room key. I didn't have access to the room. And so I'm walking around to literally everybody asking, hey, can I borrow your phone? Hey, like, and I'm bawling my eyes out. And so at this point, we are kind of like on the side of a hotel, and I see this group of black men, and I approach them in their truck, and I'm like, hey, can I borrow your phone? Can you guys get me out of here? They just completely ignored me. That was really, really, really dehumanizing. And so at this point, she comes up behind me while I'm talking to these black guys, and she grabs my neck and she said, let's go. Yeah, I remember that very vividly. And I remember how like the black men didn't offer me any support or anything. They rolled up their windows, and they walked away, and they drove away. And so I was literally left in the middle of the street crying, bawling my eyes out, didn't know what to do, very helpless, very everything. And so at this point, after she grabs my neck, and she pulls me away from the car, I just break down on this. I literally just break down. And she's yelling at me, she's degrading me, she's saying everything. And then I believe it just got to a point where I said, I don't care, keep the phone, keep the keys, I'll figure it out. And she's like, we can go home. And then she throws my phone at me, and then she starts walking to the room and she says, follow me. And so, you know, at this point, I'm just happy to be able to go home. And so I get up, and while I'm still crying, still trying to get my stuff together, still in shock, I call my little brother while we're walking to the hotel. And like, mind you, I didn't go, I let her go off to the back to the room to pack the stuff, and I stayed downstairs to get myself together, to whatever, and that really pissed her off. But she just walked away, because at this point it was like a lot of people, a lot of bystanders, and everybody like just staring and just looking. And so I get off the middle of the street because I don't like the stares that I'm getting. And I just sit in the hotel lobby and I call my little brother and I tell him literally everything that had happened to me. From the day previously to up to that point. I also called my friend Handro and I filled him in on literally that whole encounter. And then I let them know that my brother offered to help figure out, get me a flight and get me a train. And so I was like, no, it's okay. I will just suck it up for this car ride back home. And so I sucked it up for that car ride back home. I really felt the need to inform them what was happening because I didn't want, like I said earlier, anything to happen to me and nobody know, because that is the really dark side of domestic abuse, is that nobody really knows what you're going through. And so when something happens to domestic abuse survivors, if something bad happens to them, your loved ones aren't filled in on what's happening. And so I felt the need to let them know what was happening, so if anything bad did happen and if it escalated even more, they knew what was going on, the entirety of like everything. And so after I talked to my brother, I informed him on what's going to happen now, which was, I told him exactly the steps that I was going to do. I told him I was no longer just going to speak. I was going to go upstairs, get my suitcase, get my stuff, because we haven't even been there for 24 hours at this point, or it may have been 24 hours, but it wasn't enough time for us to like unpack or do anything. And so it was really easy just to grab my suitcases and go. She was already leaving the room and already had packed her stuff up by the time I was back upstairs. And so she had went downstairs to check out of the hotel, and I got my bags and I met her at the car. That entire time driving back to Santa Barbara, it was very apologetic. At first, it was no talking at all. I had asked her, please don't talk to me. I had informed her that I was done at this point. I'm good. This was now. So we had been a month and a half into this situationship. I do not call it a relationship at all, and I'm claiming that it was a situationship. And so I told her I was done at this point. I'm like, we're over, it's done. Deuce me amigos. Once you drop me back home, you'll never hear from me again. We'll go our separate ways. That had really pissed her off. That had really hurt her. But I think she knew there was no talking me out of it. And so like at the entire car ride, she didn't talk to me. And then the last couple of hours, it was like a switch, where she was like begging me to stay, so apologetic, so sorry. She just didn't know what came over her. She said she just didn't know. She didn't want my mom to know, and she didn't want people to know what was going on, blah, 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 blah. And so like, ooh. And she said that really pissed her off, me telling people. And so that's why she felt the need to take my phone so we can just talk it out ourselves. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So after I had gotten dropped off, we didn't have contact for, I want to say about a week. About a week there was no contact after that trip. And then what had happened? And then basically we were no longer together, but it was just random texts checking up on each other here and there. And then those random texts turned into like us talking again pretty regularly, like friends, because at this point she was still saying how she was struggling. And I really, like, I told my friends while in the midst of the situation, I told them like, I can't just walk away from somebody who's struggling with mental health. Like my soul, my heart, everything in me can't do it. And so I didn't. And so I kept in contact with her to make sure she's okay, because like this person was threatening to kill themselves over me. Like, at least I thought, I was like, wow, I can't just like cut off I can't cut off all contact, because like, what if she actually does go and like slit her wrist, or what if she actually does go and put a gun to her head and like actually pulls the trigger this time? And so we stayed in contact for about, no contact for a week, and then here and there contact, to pretty regular contact, to make sure she was on the up and up, to make sure she was doing good mentally, yada yada yada. Looking back at it now, that is a big red flag, because I was being manipulated. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I was being manipulated to, this person used my passion for mental health and knowing that I couldn't leave somebody while they're down. And so she used that to her advantage. And as time went on, those weeks turned into, oh, I'm so sorry, like I don't know what came over me, yada yada yada. And it like seemed like it was kind of like, it seemed cool. Everything seemed fine. Like since we weren't in a relationship, we weren't really arguing anymore. But still, her mental health, like every time she'd be going through something, it was like calling me, telling me she's crying. Oh, her dad's in the hospital again. Or like, oh, she's gonna kill herself. Oh, she failed a test. Oh, she's gonna kill herself. Oh, she's doing bad in school. I was literally the person, like I was so emotionally drained at this point. And at every turn, she would come to me for literally any and everything. And so on August 27th, I believe that's the correct date. And so at this point, like I was saying, we were cool. It wasn't, it just won't transfer back to the mental abuse. But she no longer had access, or at least I thought had access, because I set boundaries. I said, hey, no, we're not together. Hey, no, you cannot come to my house. You can't come to my apartment. No. We can text, fine. We can chat, fine. Here and there on the phone, but chatting was even out. Like, we're not about to be on the phone like a regular basis. And so, I guess she, took us kind of talking semi-regularly as like a green light. And so on August 27th, or August 26th, but let me back up a day. August 26th, she had came to my house unexpectedly to drop off I'm sorry, or a gift. But she had came to my house like without asking, without any formal conversation. I'm sorry, I was thirsty. Without asking, without anything, without any notice, she had came to my house to drop off a gift. And she said she was just going to leave it at the door. No, she didn't just leave it at the door. She had knocked on my door, and I had opened it, and she used that as a way to get into my house. And so she asked me to open it in front of her. And so I had opened the gift, and it was a pair of shoes, if I remember correctly. And it was, I forgot exactly what was the gift. But then after the gift, we started talking for a little bit. Just small talk, nothing serious. Like throughout this entirety. So the San Francisco happened, and then let me just give you guys a cool little time frame. The San Francisco trip happened, and there was like literally it was a month that we didn't see each other. And so no communication for a week, then talking here and there for a little bit, then 3 weeks. And then August 26th, she had dropped off, she was trying to just drop off a gift, and she said she was just going to drop it off and leave. But what abusers literally stick to the same motto. And so she said that, she had gotten sick at my house, and she said she didn't like feel safe or comfortable to drive home, whatever. And so I said, okay, girl, like, even though I don't really want you to, and you already broke a boundary being here, like, sure, like, you can spend the night. Like, worst decision of my life. And so literally that turned into a fight. We weren't talking. I don't know how it turned into a fight. I don't know how her dropping off a gift turned into a fight. But then that night, like, we didn't talk. We didn't whatever. She spent the night, and then like in the middle of the night, she woke up throwing up. And so at this point, I was done. So I made her clean up her own throw up. I was like, hey, you good? And I was just like, it is what it is. And like, you know, that sounds so heartless of me to make somebody clean up their own throw up and not really offer support. But like, no, I'm not. At this point, I was catching on to the manipulation. I was just over it. And so she took care of herself that night, yada yada yada. The next day, I had work and she was still lingering around my apartment. That morning, we didn't talk. She was just sitting literally in my living room on my couch the entire day. We didn't talk, we did nothing. It was really, really, really weird. I don't know why she stayed at my house for so long. But let me rephrase that. I knew why she stayed. She stayed on the couch because she still was not feeling well. But like, to me, whenever I had asked her, hey, are you good, the next day, she would tell me, yeah, I'm fine, or she wouldn't tell me what was really going on. And so I work half from home, half in person. And so this happened to fall on one of the days where I was working in person. And so I had left my house and I went to work. And then I get a random text in the middle of work saying, oh, I had called the ambulance and they're coming to get me. And I was like, wait, but literally when I was just with you, you told me everything was good. You're I don't know. You didn't tell me like you were still sick, or I didn't know if it was a serious. Also, I worked down the street, so why couldn't you just either drive yourself, B, send me a text so I could take you to the hospital? Because like, I'm confused. And so I get up and I leave work, and then I drive to my house because like, you called the ambulance to my house without letting me know, without letting my roommates know, because I have 3 other roommates, without letting anybody know. And so I was like, yo, like, I pulled up to my house, like, what's good? And so somehow, some way, she said, I told the ambulance to leave, and I wanted you to take me. But you're sick. I'm confused. I thought you were so sick that you had to call the ambulance. How all of a sudden can you just, how all of a sudden could you just wait for me to take you to the hospital? But whatever. And so at this point, I was like, okay, girl, let's go then. I'll take you to the hospital. Mind you, the hospital is literally right across the street from my job. So like, yeah. So I take her to the hospital, and Goleta Hospital, to be exact. And this is in the middle of a pandemic. I knew I probably could have went in, but I didn't go in. I dropped her off at the exit and I really wanted to leave, but I'm not a heartless person. So I dropped her off and then I just sit in the car, but she thought I had left. And so at this point, I'm getting really, really angry text messages from this person saying, oh my God, I would never do this to you. I would never leave you at the hospital even though we're fighting, yada, yada, yada. Like, how could you? I thought you loved me, blah, 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 blah. And so like, getting these texts really, really, really fucked with me, like really bad. And so I said, yo, I'm still outside, like, you're good, like, you're at the hospital, you're getting the help you need. And so I call somebody. I'm pretty sure I called Hondro to make sure I'm not a bad guy for just dipping. And so somebody gave me the reassurance that I needed to take time for myself, because like, in the midst of all this was a lot. Like, you being in the middle of work, to like somehow being at the hospital with your abuser, to like getting all these like mean, angry text messages, knowing dang well we're not in a relationship, I don't owe you anything. And so the first time when I dropped her off, I did not go inside, I did not go wait with her. I went to the gym and I went for a workout. I wasn't able to get in a full workout because like, I just started feeling so bad. So I just ran a little bit and then I went back to the hospital to check on her. Mind you, throughout this entire workout and throughout this entirety, I was getting very manipulative text messages. the entire time, and it was really, really, really fucking with my brain, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I was so tired of feeling guilty and feeling like the bad guy. And so I had went back to the hospital, and I had went inside to check on her. At this point, she was no longer in the waiting room. She was admitted, and they still didn't know what was wrong with her at the time, but she was connected to everything, and I believe they're doing some tests on her. And so she's in the dark room. She's in a dark room because she said her head was hurting, so they had turned off the lights for her, and they closed like the blinds or everything. And so instead of, I walk into the room and it's instantly like, when did you know? When did you know you no longer wanted to be with me? It wasn't about her health. It wasn't about literally anything. It was about, when did you know I didn't want to be with you? And that was the question on repeat. And I told her, I'm not going to answer that. I'm here to check on you, to check on your health, to make sure you're good. And then that turned into a fight because I wouldn't answer that question. And so it just started escalating. And at this point, where like she's yelling at me, and I'm just sitting there like, okay, like, if you're good, I'm gonna go. And so I get up to go to the restroom, not even to leave, not even to nothing. I literally said I was gonna go to the restroom. I'll be back. I don't know. There's something mentally wrong with her. And so I guess she didn't hear the part where I said like I was gonna be right back, just going to the restroom. So when I got up to start walking out, Brittany jumps up. Mind you, she's connected to IV at this point, and she's connected to all the machines. She jumps up and sucker punches me from behind and bear hugs me, not to leave, in the middle of a hospital. And at this point, a nurse sees what's going on, and she comes and breaks up the fight. It was not a fight. I was literally intact in a hospital. And then I was the one kicked out of the hospital. They told me I had to leave the premises immediately. The nurse said she saw everything and she heard everything, and I need to leave immediately. So I'm in shock. Like, I literally just got punched. Like, hello, in the middle of a hospital and telling me to leave. And so me being in shock, I just walk away. I didn't say anything. I wasn't even fighting the hospital employees. I didn't even let out a tear in the midst of this. The nurse, while I'm walking out the double door, she asked me if I'm okay, and I tried so hard to let words out of my mouth, but literally nothing came out except tears. And then I just shook my head and I walked to my car, and I sat in my car bawling my eyes out, bawling. And so I get text the entire time like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to hit you, I was just trying to stop you from leaving, I didn't know where you were going, I didn't want you to leave, I just really wanted you to answer my question, like, I just really wanted to know, when did you not want to be with me, or when did you know that whatever the question was, she just really wanted to know. And so I politely informed her that her stuff will be outside, you no longer could contact me, we don't have to interact. Once you're out of the hospital, you can get your stuff and leave. I didn't even offer to pick her up. I didn't, mind you, I dropped her off, so I didn't even care how she got back to my apartment to get her stuff. It was literally already sitting outside for her. Couple hours go by after I sent that text message, and no contact, no nothing. And then I believe it's like 9 p.m. at this point, and I'm in the kitchen washing my dishes, minding my business. I didn't hear from the hospital. I didn't hear from the police. I didn't hear from her. It went silent for a couple hours. I tried to go on about my day. Mind you, each one of these instances, so the mental abuse, the physical abuse from San Francisco to the physical abuse from the hospital, I did not report any of it. I didn't know I was supposed, like, this was my first domestic violence relationship. They don't teach you what to do when you're in the midst of it. They don't tell you, oh, you're supposed to report. They don't tell you who you can go to. And so I just told my friends, and I kept it pushing. And so that night I was in the kitchen minding my business because I thought like so I didn't hear from her. I thought she had gone. Like I thought everything was cool. I thought I was safe. But there was a time in my life, or even a couple months ago, where me and my roommates did not lock our door, and so our front door literally stayed open. Mind you, we lock it now. So for anybody watching this video, if you ever try to find me, if you ever try to come to my apartment, that front door is locked down. And that sounds so bad, but like, if you live in Santa Barbara / Goleta, then you know it is a relatively safe town. And like, I thought it was relatively safe to leave your doors unlocked, because like, who was gonna I was very naive at that time. And so I'm in the kitchen with my, like, how the kitchen is turned, faced, there's a window and then there's a sink, and then you can't really see anything behind you. And so I have my back turned washing the dishes, and then Brittany comes up behind me and asks me, "When did you know again?" And me being in shock, I was like, "Wait, what? Like, how did you get here? How did you get in?" And you can see the rage on her face. She corners me into a corner in the kitchen, kept repeatedly asking, "When did I know that mind you, when the question was, when did I know I didn't want to be with her? Or when did I know when did I know I was no longer in love with her?" Because in the hospital, I had told her I had love for her, but I was no longer in love with her. Who would still be in love with somebody who like did that in San Francisco? And yeah, I like, when you love somebody, or quote unquote you think you love somebody, that just doesn't go away. And so that's what I did, kept checking on her. And what the fuck, like, I just like, she was one of my homies, me amigos, like, you good, like, yeah. And so she kept re-asking that question over and over and over again, and I made it very clear I was not answering that question at all. That was not happening. I told her we no longer had to talk. There was nothing that we had to talk about. Can you please grab your stuff and can you go? And so this is when it escalates. This is when it escalates and turns really, really, really bad. And so at this point, she's going for all of her stuff. She's taking all of her stuff, but then she makes it very known that, "Oh, okay, you want to leave me? I got it." And so now, I'm not embarrassed of this at all. I am 22 years old. We had Polaroid pictures, not together, but yeah, kind of together. But I had naked Polaroids of myself in my room. That, like, they're my naked photos. They're in my room. They were of me. And so this person took my naked photos and said, this is insurance to make sure you don't leave me until I get the help that I need. And so she was holding my naked photos over me. And so at this point, I'm calling the cops. I'm like, I'm trying to get my photos back. She's not giving them back. I asked for it politely. Mind you, she had already invaded my room to go find the photos. She finds the photos, and she's like dangling them around. She's like packing her stuff to leave, but with my photos. And I'm like, okay, you can leave, but not with my private, intimate photos. Like, no. And so I'm on the phone. At this point, I'm calling the cops. I'm like, okay, so like, I'm not going to get physical with you. I'm not going to fight you for these photos. Like, I'm not a physical person, but I can call the cops. And this really enrages her. And so I'm sitting in front of the front door on the phone with the cops, and literally, I just dialed at this point. And so this is where it now turns physical. She attacks me at the door and grabs my phone and hangs up on the cops and says, "Oh, would you really do that? Like, I just can't believe you would call the cops on me, blah, blah, blah. Okay, bet, I got you." And so at this point, she's upset. Now she has my phone and she has the photos. She starts walking towards my patio, and she throws my phone on the ground near my roommate's door, and then she heads to the patio. I go pick up my phone, and then I go to the patio. Mind you, she still has the naked photos, and she's trying to escape from the patio because right under, like, my patio is like not, it's not that far from the ground, and it's, you have street access. It's not like the backyard, it's straight street, and it's my garage or whatever. And so at this point, she's on the patio. I just got my phone, and she's jumping over the ledge to get off, to leave with my naked photos. And so I, once again, I closed the patio door because I figured out what she was doing. I closed the patio door, I locked it, and I once again, I'm on the phone with the cops, trying to let them know what was going on. So this time I got a little bit farther, and I told them my name, and the dispatch person finally, like, I told them my name, and they asked me for my address. But in the midst of this, I guess she figured out I was on the phone with the cops again, and so she jumps back on the patio. And then we have one, two, three, we have 3 different patio doors on our patio because it was a really, really, really long patio. And so while the first one was locked, she really quickly jumped back onto the patio and ran to the second patio door. And then she runs inside, and then she again, like from behind, attacks me to get my phone. And at this point, it is very, very, very physical. I really don't want to insert photos of the bruises and scars that I got, but yeah, she hits me, and then she takes my phone, she snatches my phone from me, and then she's like, oh, you really don't trust me, huh? You really just can't wait until I get the help I need. Okay, fine. And so while she has my phone, she's back on the patio because, like, we were literally right in front of the patio. And then she takes a lighter and starts burning the photos. And she's like, if I can't have them, nobody can. I just really wanted to see if you trusted me, and now I can see that you don't trust me. And so I got what I wanted. I'm like, okay, thank you for burning the photos. You can go now, like, whatever. But no, that wasn't the end of it. And so she's burning the photo. She's saying some very manipulative stuff. It was very tiresome. And as the photos are burning, halfway through, I guess she got tired of waiting for them to burn. She walks back inside without saying anything to me, and then she goes for my car keys. Mind you, at this same time all this was going on, I was dog sitting my mother's dog, because they were in Turkey. So my mom, my sister, and my brother were in Turkey, and my dad was in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I was by myself without my family at this point. So I literally went through this entire situation with, like, by myself. And so she goes to my room, and now at this point grabs my car keys. My mom's dog, Gucci, who I love, Gucci is now following her this entire time and, like, barking up a storm and what the fuck ever. She grabs my car keys and she makes a run for my car, and Gucci follows her. And so, okay, let me preface this by saying I only had on a t-shirt. I had on absolutely no clothes. It was bedtime. I was winding down for the day. I didn't know any of this was going to happen. Like, who would think this was going to happen? And so I'm, like, in shock that she had just taken my keys. My dog had ran out. I have no clothes, but, like, I wasn't even thinking about all that. I just ran downstairs in my underwear and a fucking t-shirt. And when I heard she had my keys, I was immediately on the phone with 911. I had to find my phone, figure out where my phone was, and then I was back on the phone for a third time trying to call the police. And so this time I really got really far with the cops, but it wasn't that far. It's very unfortunate. But I had gotten far enough to the point where I was like, my name is Jaydarich. Here's my address. This is my location. I was giving them the description of Brittany Scott. I was letting them know that she is trying to steal my car, because I didn't know what she was trying to do with my car. And so I was giving them the description of her. I was letting them know exactly what was happening. And so at this point, I'm making my way downstairs. I'm trying to find Gucci, and she grabs a blanket that I had brought for her weeks ago from Costco's. Like I bought it a while ago, and it was just sitting in my trunk. I had honestly forgotten about it. But I guess she remembered it and she really wanted it, so she went for the blanket. And so at this point, she grabs the blanket and she finally catches on to who I'm on the phone with, and she flips out. She's like, "Oh my God, once again, you would really call the cops on me? Like, I thought you loved me. Like, how do you call the cops on somebody that you love? All this, all this, all this." At this point, I'm not letting up at all. I'm not hanging up on the cops. I'm not letting my phone go. So what does she do? She grabs my dog and she starts doing some weird psycho stuff with my dog, saying, "Oh my God, I'm never gonna see you again. I love you so much. I love your owner so much." Like, blah, blah, like doing some weird goodbyes with my dog. And then she sprints to her car, which is on the side of the street. And she sprints to her car to try to go get away, still with my dog right with her. And so I go after my dog, not her. I'm still on the phone with the cops. Now the cops are asking for, I literally letting them know, "Oh, she's trying to get away. She has my dog." They asked for a description of her car, and so I'm giving them now a description of her car. And that irritates her even more. And so she is trying to shield her license plate. She's trying to beg me, like she's yelling everything at me, begging me to get off the phone with the cops. How dare I call the cops on her? And at this point, the cops already have her license plate and they have a description of her car. And she has a stolen gun in her car, like I mentioned earlier in the story. In all of this, I was being threatened, like, "You better get off the phone with the cops. I'm going to shoot you. Like, I'm going to kill you. Like, if you don't hang up that phone right now." Like, I'm going, all these threats. So I would get off the phone with the cops. At one point, she does go for the gun. She gets into her car. And me being like, I just take a step back. "Okay, you want to leave? Go." And so her car is, I don't know how to explain this, but let's say this is her car and this is me. I'm trying to get my dog. I'm not interacting with her at all. I'm letting her drive off. I'm still on the phone with the cops, letting them know that this person is now driving off. And so it was like a light flip switched in her. I swear on everything, it was like a light flip switched on her. And I will never forget, like, what had happened. Like, she went for me. And some point in this, I tried to pepper spray her because I did have a pepper spray on my keys. And so she's like, before she got in the car, she was like, have one foot in, one foot out. And I believe she was like still trying to like go for me, or still trying to go for my phone. And so I pepper spray her. I try to pepper spray her, but my pepper spray doesn't work. And so she gets off on this. She laughs. She takes my phone at this point. She then hangs up on the cops. I no longer have a phone. She still has my car keys. Please keep this in mind. She still had my car keys. She takes my car keys. I no longer have a phone. I'm no longer on the phone with the cops. I'm over here begging for my stuff back. And at this point, this is like, it was already physical, but this is where it like kind of like escalated even more. So once she sees like she was able to get my phone and hang up on the cops, she threw my phone in the street, and then she like tries to get away. But once I got my phone back in the midst of this, and I'm trying to call 911 again. And so while it was ringing, she was kind of like driving off, but it was still like, I don't know what had happened. It was just like a light switch flipped. And so while driving, she puts me in a chokehold, and she starts punching me, hitting me. Here, I'll show you guys this. She bites me really. This is 4 months later. So this is her mouth, teeth marks. She bites me. She's doing everything in the most, and I'm literally in a chokehold, dangling outside of her car while she's driving. Yeah, while she's driving. And so, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional because I'm not gonna give Brittany that. I'm not gonna have tears in this video. Like, no, I'm gonna stay strong. So bear with me. And so at this point, I'm in the chokehold, dangling outside of the car. She drives with me like that. In the midst of doing all of this, in the midst of hitting me, biting me, choking me, she drives and she hits the car that was not directly, yeah, it was directly in front of her, but she hits that car because she's like doing all this stuff to me. She's not paying attention to where her car is going, so she hits that car, and then her car veers off, or she like turns her car, and then she keeps trying to drive. And then at this point, all my neighbors are outside. Literally everybody from this apartment complex to the apartment complex, literally everybody was outside trying. There were men with bats trying to get her to stop. There were men begging her to let her go, let her go. Everybody was screaming, let her go. And then a white Camaro. Like, I am so thankful that there are humans out there that really care. And so by the grace of God, or by the grace of somebody, this white Camaro sees what's happening, and so they hit her. They were driving by and they saw what was happening. It was a really nice mom and her daughter. I really wish I remembered and I got their names of who they were, but unfortunately I didn't, because it was a really crazy day, or a crazy night. And so they saw what was happening, and they came back and they hit her from behind. And so when they hit her, that was the force it took for her to release me. And so she released me, and then she sped off. It was no stopping. She didn't stop to see if I was okay. She literally, it was like I was released and then she fled from the scene. Like I said, she was threatening me with a gun, and I was scared for my life, and I know she was threatening me with a gun, but somebody said and reported to the cops that they heard a gun go off, they heard gunshots. And so I'm left in the middle of the streets bawling my eyes out, and I just not the only thing about it I remember, but I remember that lady who saved my life, because she saved my life, just came and gave me the biggest hug, and I was just bawling my eyes out, naked in the middle of the street. I had no idea where my dog had went. I had no idea what was going on. I was just bawling in the middle of the street while a bunch of strangers watched me cry. And then a couple minutes later, the strangers had told me not to move. They told me they called the cops. They kept reassuring me that I'm okay and that I'm safe now. But are you ever safe really after that? No. And so instantaneously the cops get on the scene, and as you can tell, I'm black. They thought it was me. They didn't treat me like a victim. They instantaneously were coming after me like I was the person who did something wrong, and so they kept going to every other person except me, asking if they were okay, asking for their side of the story. And everybody was like, no, she was the one that everything happened to. And the police, not very nice to me at first. When I say that made it even worse for me, this entire experience, they were like, oh, can you just take a seat down? We don't know what's going on. We'll figure out who you are. Just take a seat. No, I'm a black person in America. I will not be sitting down. No, you will not. I'm calm, I'm cool, I'm collected, I'm not a threat to you, but I will not be sitting down on the curb like I did something wrong. And so they kept asking me to sit down, and I said no. And so it took literally everybody who was there to tell them she's not sitting down, she's okay. you can talk to her from standing up. Until at this point, the cop takes a step back and he's like, okay. And that's when they start asking me what had happened. Where's the gun? There was reports of a gunshot. And so more police are on the scene now, and there were a couple good cops on the scene who did make sure that I was okay. They did make sure they came back and apologized. Let me say that. They said, we're so sorry. We didn't know the validity of what happened to you. We didn't know that you were the victim. We just heard lots of reports of gunshots and violence going on, so we came on the scene with guns blazing, basically. That's not what they said verbatim, but that's the gist of it. And so at this point, I feel like everything happened so quickly, but at this point I'm like, it's cool. I just need to find my car keys, my phone, and my dog. One of the nice bystanders found my phone. My keys at this point were still missing, but I had thought Brittany Scott threw them into the middle of the road, but no, she didn't. So we're all sitting over here searching for my dog and searching for my car keys at this point. My car keys were nowhere to be found, because later on you'll find out that, or we found out that she still had them in the car with her. And then my dog was in the garage, and Gucci is the type of dog, like, if he doesn't know you, he's not a friendly dog. Like, he's an inside dog. And so he was in the garage barking up a storm and basically protecting himself and what he thought was me, and so in the middle of this, I had to calm myself to go calm down Gucci. So I finally got my dog. And at this point, there's cops they start taking the report, but like I said, I had on no clothes, so they allowed me the dignity to go into my apartment, and they allowed me the dignity to give my side, or give the police report from inside the house, and I give the police report. We take photos of all the bruising and all the scarring. They take pictures of my apartment, of the pictures that she had lit on fire. They had taken pictures of literally everything as evidence, obviously. And at this point, they still don't know where Brittany Scott is or my keys are. And so she was evading arrest, and so they caught her all the way in Carpinteria. And if you don't know Santa Barbara, Carpinteria is like a 30-ish minute drive from where I live. So there was a manhunt out to find her, and they had finally found her, the stolen gun, and my car keys on her when they had arrested her. And so they had finally arrested her. At this point, I'm mentally fried. And so, yeah. And so that I call my mom. I give the reports. I take the pictures. My really cool roommate gives me some tea and tries to check on me, make sure I'm okay. And I'm not okay, but I'm just trying to make it seem like I'm okay. And so at this point, I call the cops finally, or the cops don't leave for a while, but there's just a break in it. And so I call my parents and let them know what had happened to me, because my mom, my sister, and my brother were finally on a flight back from Turkey, not because of the situation, but because it was just their time to come home. And so I let them know, because they had a layover in Istanbul, and so I had let them know what was happening, and that I was safe finally. And I called my dad, who was in Atlanta, and then I let him know what was happening and that I was quote unquote safe. And then the cop comes back he doesn't come back. He does come back to return my keys, but I get a call saying they had found my keys and they would bring them to me. And so I stayed up to get my car keys. Mind you, who would sleep after that. I stayed up to get my car keys, and then I was left feeling really, really, really guilty. Really, really, really guilty. I don't, and yes, this is a race thing now. So yes, we're bringing race into this. I was so scared shitless that they were going to kill her and she was going to be another black person in the news who was shot by the police. And so I never ever in my life, like, I hate calling the cops. I especially hate calling the cops on other black folks because you never know how it could turn out, and it's really, really, really risky. And so at this point, I know she's arrested. I know that. But I'm not going to talk bad about myself, but as some people know, the domestic abuse cycle and the mental abuse cycle never ends. And so I'm texting her like, oh my God, I'm so sorry this happened. I never wanted it to go this way. Like, I thought it was my fault. Like, I thought it was me who started this. I thought I deserved this. I thought it was, everything was all on me. And so, like, I'm texting her like, I'm so sorry, like, blah, 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 blah. Like, are you okay? Trying to figure out, are you okay? I believe I reached out to her friend to let her friend know that she had gotten arrested, that she's in Santa Barbara, and that somebody would have to go get her. And immediately I had a protection order because of the validity of the case. The police offered me a protection order, and so I had a temporary protection order. And then the next day, mind you, I did not, while like I tried to call the cops in different times, it was my neighbors who called the cops, and it was the neighbors who got the cops to come out. And so because of that, I am not, to this day, not a part of the case, even though I'm the victim. I was never a part of the case from after they got my pictures and they got all the evidence they needed. I was never contacted really again by the police. And so the following day, a judge granted me, unbeknownst to me, but thank the good Lord, the judge granted me I believe it's a 3-year protection order against Brittany. And so, yeah, I believe it was either a day or, I think it was a day. The next day she had gotten released. And that's when the mental abuse started again. Like, she saw my text, and she was like, oh my God, I just could never believe that you could do this to me. She first called to check to see if I was okay, and that really like, yeah, I'm okay, but you're the one in jail, girl, are you good? And so I fell into the pattern of what most abuse victims do, which were, I put myself last, then I checked on this person, and like, I blamed myself for the entire situation, and this person, Brittany, ate it up. And so for days after the incident, it was a brain fuck. It was a brain fuck for sure. She did not get released the next day. I believe she got released 2 days later, because her and her family were struggling to come up with the bail. I believe it was at $50,000, and so you have to come up with 10% of that. And so they finally came up with the bail, but like right when she got released, that's when the contact started. It was no longer from her phone. She had text-free numbers to where she would text me from, and you know, it went from, oh, are you okay, to entertaining, like, how could you do this to me? And it was for days to weeks after that abusive cycle, I was really, really, really traumatized and really brain fucked, to the point of where like I was like checking to see if this person was okay. I was like trying to see like what's good, what's going on, because the cops or the justice system was not keeping me informed. And so I was getting all my information from my abuser, and during this time, this abuser was asking me to drop the charges to figure out what I could do, telling me that she was going to use all my text against me. And like, I was just trying to do the right thing. I didn't want for, I don't know. And so at some point, I just stopped all contact. And when I had stopped all contact, that's when it got even worse. I have a problem when people just stop talking to me, and like, I have to stop talking to you. You can't just walk away from me. And so she would do that, and it would piss me off. And I was like, I was like, big deuces. Then like, okay, girl, you're good. You're back to your petty shit. I'm out. And so I sent that last text like, I'm out. And I had asked her to stop contacting me. And mind you, I was also getting texts from her friend, who, screw that girl too, because I hate her, telling me, oh, you need to stop contacting my friend. Why are you reaching out to her? You did this to her. You're the reason why she's in this predicament. Your friend is reaching out to me. What do you mean? I had the protection order. So even if I was to text her, that didn't give her the right to text me back. How would I know how to contact her? She's going behind you guys' back, texting me from text-free numbers, calling me from text-free numbers, going to payphones, because that's what she said. She would call me from payphones to talk to me, because she said her family was monitoring everything that she did, and so she had to be very careful of how she would contact me. No. And so for a couple weeks, not even a couple weeks, for like a week after that that incident, it went back to mental abuse, and so I finally drew the line. I said, I'm good, and I walked away. And from that, I got some of the nastiest texts. Literally, one of the texts was, you're a white woman in a black person's body, like how could you call the cops, blah blah blah. Literally my biggest, everything that like I confided into this person, it was now being used against me, and my passions were being used against me. And I already get called an Oreo a lot, and I already get called a white person a lot. And so literally all of that was used against me. And to this day, I still get texts blaming me for the entire situation. I get emails on top of emails blaming me, saying she's going to write a book about this situation. Like, it's just some really ugly stuff that I get. Now it happened in August. We're now in December. So I still regularly get contacted by this person. She texted me Lauryn Hill songs. Now I can't listen to Lauryn Hill anymore. She uses my favorite artist against me. She sends me flowers. Literally anything that you guys can think of, she does it. And so I'm still in the midst of trying to break this mental abusive cycle. I keep having full faith in the justice system, but they do keep letting me down, unfortunately. And so to this day, Brittany Scott is free. She has 6 charges against her. She has stolen gun, threatening a witness, domestic violence. There's 6. If I remember them, I will insert a picture somewhere, because like, I don't care. You guys can see all the tea. You guys can, like, I'm very transparent. She has 6 charges, 2 enhancements, and she finally last week got a violation for breaking the protection order. Mind you, I've reported every single infraction of her violent protection order, and to this day they still have not done anything, and this person still has all access to me. And so after my last YouTube video, after my last Vlogmas, where I mentioned I had a new partner, I didn't even mention I had a new partner. Well, I think I mentioned it briefly because she's my video editor. She had caught wind of that, and so she called me, like, she blew up my phone saying, how dare I get a new partner, like, how could I just move on like that, blah 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 blah, just saying some really mean and evil stuff at 5 in the morning, if I remember correctly. And so after that, like, I knew it's been stalking since I asked her no longer to contact me. Like, she knows exactly what I'm doing. She told me how she looks at my Instagram stories, but how she's smart about it, and how right after viewing my Instagram stories, she will go ahead and block me, then unblock me, so it won't show that she viewed my Instagram story. But she still watches it, and I'm I'm a survivor. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to stop being me. And so I keep my stuff public. I don't care if she sees, like, see it. But that, her contacting me really screwed my mental health for a second. And so I stopped posting videos regularly for Vlogmas. But I'm back. I'm reclaiming my power. Brittany Scott, like I said previously, I know you're watching this and I don't care. You need some serious help and you are an abuser. You no longer have any power over me. And to all the survivors out there, you guys aren't alone. I'm a domestic abuse survivor. And I really hope that this story resonates with somebody else. I'm really grateful for the people in my life that have supported me through this really, really, really tough time. I'm really appreciative for the resources that are available to me, like my care advocate. I'm really appreciative of my partner, who has been with me through almost every step of the way. At first, I struggled with trusting and letting somebody in, but yeah, she's been very patient with me and she's been really dope. I've also had to do a lot of healing on my own. I'm in therapy. I'm really, really, really grateful for my therapist. I'm not grateful for the police because, like, you guys don't understand. I would go to report every infraction. Like, when she would contact me or she would text me, I would go to report it. And there were 2 or 3 cops who literally laughed. They're like, oh, I remember this case. Are you like, ha ha ha, I got called onto the scene. Ha, I remember it. I don't know, it's funny. But okay. And so every time I would report it, sometimes I would get a case number, sometimes I wouldn't get a case number, sometimes I don't know. So I'm not really grateful for the police. I'm grateful that for everybody else though. I'm grateful for the people in my life now who are supporting me. I'm grateful for you guys who are watching this really long video, because yeah, it's a long one. I am grateful that I am able to share my story and hopefully it helps somebody out there. Don't ignore the red flags. Don't ignore the signs. Don't, just because you think you're bored, don't do anything like I did. It's not worth it at all to have to go through what I went through. Yeah, I really want to be done with this video because, like, I'm kind of drained. So bye guys, I will see you again for another Vlogmas. And I'm back. I'm better than ever. I'm reclaiming my power. I know this is my purpose in life. And so I love you guys. I will see you guys in another video. Bye.